Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you just after Mikel Arteta has finished his press conference. Arsenal back in action in the Premier League on Thursday night, but Mikel Arteta choosing to have his press conference bright and early this week, 9 a.m. on Monday morning. He's just finished, so as usual I thought I'd pop in it, record a video and just tell you a little bit about what he had to say and how he was. And plenty to discuss this week. Actually, we've got lots to cover. Little tidbits on the likes of Martinelli's fitness, Thomas Partey's fitness, Mesut Ozil situation, because well, it's Mesut Ozil, so that always has to be discussed. Rob Holding, Lucas Torreira, the goalkeeper situation, possible changes there during the transfer window this month. So lots to discuss, and I'll get straight into it. Now we'll start with Gabriel Martinelli. We all saw the injury he picked up in the warm-up ahead of the game against Newcastle at the weekend. Did not look good. He was in tears, Mikel Arteta admitting after the game it didn't look good. But slightly more positive news from Mikel this morning about that. Gabriel's going to have his scan today. Should get the results by tomorrow. Arsenal will know more. But Mikel was certainly sounding a little bit more hopeful. Martinelli was at the training ground yesterday, and the signs then were looking a lot better than they were on Saturday immediately after he twisted his ankle in that warm-up. So what he said was, we don't know how bad it is. He's getting a scan this morning. We didn't look after the game because he was in a lot of pain, but yesterday he tested it a little bit better. So let's hope. We have a scan today, so let's hope it's not as serious and we can have Gabby back really soon. We will know more tomorrow, certainly. So a little bit more positive there on Gabriel Martinelli. Look, he is going to be sidelined for some length of time. Clearly, it was a pretty nasty twist of the ankle. Hopefully, it's not going to be too much damage to the ligaments or anything like that. And Arsenal definitely sounded a little bit more hopeful than they were immediately after the game on Saturday. We will know more tomorrow when those scan results come back. On Gabriel and Thomas Partey, certainly looking very, very good on those two. It's not going to be too long till we see both of those back in the starting 11. Thomas Partey potentially even on Thursday. Probably more likely he'll be on the bench, but certainly looking a lot more hopeful with those two. He said, well, Gabriel had a training session the other day. He tested positive. He had mild symptoms, so he's missed a few weeks of training because he had to isolate. It's better now, and we expect him to be training with us the next couple of days, and we'll make an assessment on whether we can have him or not on Thursday. Thomas has been in full training for the last 4 or 5 days. He's completely asymptomatic. It would be a little bit rushed to try and play him against Newcastle, but I think he'll be ready for Thursday. A little bit of confusion there during the press conference when he sort of described him as asymptomatic. I think we all suddenly thought, hold on, has he just confirmed that Thomas has had COVID during this layoff? But he doesn't seem like that was the case. And I think he means, when he says asymptomatic, I think he meant purely that he's not really feeling any effects of that thigh injury anymore. So he's training and he's not feeling it anymore, and he will be back very, very soon. So really positive news on Gabriel and Thomas Partey. I think Thomas is certainly a little bit further ahead in terms of his return than Gabriel. Gabriel has trained, but you've got to remember he missed quite a large chunk of training. So whether he comes straight back in against Palace on Thursday, I'm not sure, but I think we're certainly going to see Thomas Partey in the matchday squad against Palace on Thursday night. Whether he starts is another thing, but I think you're probably still going to ease Thomas Partey in, aren't you? You don't want to take any risks on him. You don't want to throw him in any as early as, just in case something happens again like it did against Spurs. And I think, as I've mentioned before, Arsenal are in a much better position with Thomas now because they're winning games. They had to throw him back in before out of necessity almost because of how badly they were doing, and they thought he could make the big difference. But now they're winning. They're in a good run of form. Confidence is high. You don't really need to just throw Thomas Partey straight back in there to try and make the difference as you did before. So I'm expecting they'll take their time a little bit with Thomas, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's on the bench on Thursday night rather than starting. Obviously, Mesut Ozil situation came up. It always does. We saw Mesut tweet yesterday. I'm sure you all saw it. He's talking about he's doing a Q&A at Twitter at some point today. He said he's going to talk about the past, the present, and the future. Now, will he announce something about his immediate future with Arsenal? Will he announce something about Fenerbahce? We'll have to wait and see on that. But Mikel was asked about it. He said, my understanding is that nothing has changed from the last press conference. Edu and the club are having some conversations about the near future and the long-term future. And when we know something, we will announce it. He was asked whether he was going to be watching or tuning into Ozil's Q&A, said, "I'm sorry, but I don't use Twitter. I don't follow Twitter," which isn't actually really the case because he does have a Twitter account, although, as is the way with sports people, it's not really them who tend to use it. It's someone that they've employed in their marketing who does it. And then talking about the Q&A again, he says, Mesut's done it in the past. It's something he tries to do to engage with the fans and keep everybody informed, so I'm not surprised. So Mikel might not be tuning into it, but something tells me that an awful lot of you guys and potentially a lot of myself and other press guys will be tuning in just to find out exactly what Mesut is going to say. Is he going to announce that he is on his way to Fenerbahce? The way Ozil does things and the way his social media team and his marketing people do things, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if an announcement about a move came in something like this or something to do with social media, rather than leaving it for Arsenal to do it. It wouldn't at all surprise me if he sort of jumped the gun and did it himself in something like this. So it could well be an interesting one. We'll have to keep an eye on Twitter and see what Mesut has to say. Other stuff that he talked about, including Eddie Nketiah. There's been links with Nketiah potentially leaving this month. Some suggesting that West Ham, having sold Sebastian Haller, are looking at Eddie Nketiah as a possible replacement. Mikel shot down suggestions of him leaving pretty bluntly, just a straight no when asked if Eddie could be leaving this window. He was also asked about Rob Holding's new contract. David Ornstein at The Athletic writing a story today saying that Holding has signed his new contract already. And he was asked if that's true, and he said, "It's something that we will announce as quickly as we can, but it looks like it." So not full confirmation from Mikel Arteta there about Holding's contract, but just saying it looks like it. When it comes to Mikel Arteta speak, that is about as much confirmation as you're going to get, because he is a manager who straight bats these type of questions in press conference, hits them straight back to you, full Jeffrey Boycott, Mike Atherton style. So when he says something like that, it tends to basically mean, yes, it's happening. So I don't think we're going to have to wait too long to find out about the Rob Holding has signed his new contract. It's a little bit of bone of contention with some of you guys. Do you want Holding to sign? Fair few seems to think it's not the best move from Arsenal. I happen to disagree. I think it's a decent move, getting Holding to sign his new deal. Long term, is he an absolute regular starter in the Premier League? Probably not, but I think he's a very good defender, and he's getting better and better at the moment as well. It's taken him a long time to get back to top form after his injury, but he's showing signs he's getting there now, and I think he's only 25. He's going to improve even more. Still way off hitting his peak yet, and I think Arsenal, he's someone to keep around, and he's very good for the squad and the change room as well. He's well liked. He's homegrown, which is really important, and I think keeping him getting him tied down to a new long-term contract is very, very important, especially when you're coming up to a summer when plenty like Socrates, Mustafi, even David Luiz could well be leaving. It wouldn't make too much sense for me to let Rob Holding go as well. He was asked about Lucas Torreira. Obviously, Lucas not having the greatest of time of it with Atletico Madrid, not playing too many games. I think he's only started a couple in La Liga. He was asked, could he come back from that loan? He said, "We have some conversations with Lucas. He started the loan period really well, but now he's lacking game time. It can happen. The team is doing exceptionally well. They are first in La Liga, and when a team is winning it, it's difficult to get into the starting lineup. It's a long season. I know Lucas's character is going to try and keep going and keep pushing too. So let's see what will happen." I think Arsenal are in a tricky situation with Torreira here. They need to make a decision one way or the other. There will be a break clause in his loan if they want to bring him back. There will be some point in January, potentially right around now. I mean, for me, I think they've got to bring him back, because if he's not playing, his value is nosediving. And the whole idea of getting him to Atletico was to play a lot and protect his value, and then at the end of the season, they could sell him either to Atletico or somewhere else, and his value would have been protected, because his contract's running down all the time as we speak. But the fact he's not playing now, that value is plummeting. And if he's going to come back next summer and not go to Atletico, which is clearly looking quite likely at the moment because they're not playing him, then his value is going to be really, really low. So for me, Arsenal have got to bring him back, get him out somewhere else, potentially send him over to Italy somewhere, hopefully get some games and get his value back up again, so they can at least sell him for a decent amount of money in the summer. So yeah, I think that's one to keep an eye on, what Arsenal are going to do with Lucas Torreira. But I would certainly personally get him back and get him out somewhere he's going to play regular football. He was asked about the links with Emi Buendia and Diego Costa, and look, whenever he gets asked about links, he doesn't give anything away. All he said here was, we get linked with players that we haven't even discussed, so I'm not going to go name by name. It's just what Mikel Arteta does. In terms of Diego Costa, I've said before, I don't really feel there's anything in that, but there is certainly interest from Arsenal in Emi Buendia. That's been a long-term interest, as I've mentioned before, but I still think, as I've mentioned before, it would be incredibly difficult for them to do anything in terms of getting him in on a permanent basis this summer, just because of their lack of financial clout and the position Norwich are in the Championship, and they would be absolutely against selling one of their best players, if not their best player, when they're looking well set to return to the Premier League. So I'm not expecting too much in terms of that this window, but we'll wait and see. You never know. Stan Kroenke might suddenly find 40 million quid down the back of his sofa over in America and slap it on Mikel Arteta's desk and say, do what you want with it. Don't think he will, but you never know. We'll have to wait and see. Some interesting stuff on the goalkeepers, actually, sort of towards the end of the press conference that I wanted to touch on. I've mentioned it before, my thoughts on Runarsson, and it's clearly not up to Arsenal standard. And Mikel basically admitting today that the goalkeeping situation did not go as planned in the summer. They didn't get what they wanted. They wanted David Raya. Look, he didn't name him by name, but David Raya at Brentford was Arsenal's first choice target. That's well known. It didn't happen. Brentford didn't want to sell. Arsenal didn't want to put the sort of money down that could tempt Brentford into selling. So in the end, they got Runarsson in, very much not seen as a second choice goalkeeper. But that's how they've had to go because they didn't get anyone else in. Matt Macey's obviously left now. So he was asked, what now Macey's gone, are you going to be looking at bringing another keeper this window? And he said, we are assessing the situation with the 3 positions on the goalkeeping area and we'll find a different solution probably in this window. So suggesting something is going to happen, whether it be a short-term loan or a permanent deal, not so sure. I would guess at this stage they might look to do something in terms of a loan because they're not going to get David Raya this window. I can't see that happening, but I think I wouldn't be at all surprised if they go back in for him next summer once the season has ended. So I could see potentially getting a loan deal just to cover things until the end of the season, a more experienced goalkeeper than Runarsson. He was asked about Runarsson leaving on loan. He says there's nothing there yet. We are assessing what is going to happen with the 3 positions. The discussions we had in the summer within the club are a little bit different to what actually happened because of the transfer window and the situation that developed with Emi Martinez. We didn't have much time to do what we really wanted to do, and we decided to assess the situation in this window, which is what we are trying to do, and we'll make a decision on how we want to move forward in those 3 positions. So a lot of talk clearly behind the scenes about what Arsenal want to do with the goalkeeper situation this month. Is Runarsson good enough? Clearly, I think we've all seen that he's probably not good enough to be your full-term number 2. They need to get someone else in to cover for Bernd Leno, to allow Bernd Leno to maybe get a breather in some games that, particularly looking at Newcastle in the FA Cup when Leno started at the weekend. If they had a decent number 2, I imagine Leno probably would have been given a little bit of a rest in that game, but they don't. They've got Runarsson, and I don't think you can really go Runarsson if you want to take a competition seriously. And so it was no surprise to me to see Leno start that game, and it was proved right because he made that big save at the end to keep Arsenal in the game. So yeah, I think Arsenal, there's going to be some movement in the transfer window between now and the end of the month with the goalkeeping situation. Exactly what they do, I'm not sure yet. I have to say, I think they'll be looking around for some sort of experienced goalkeeper who they can bring in on loan to cover them through till the end of the season, and then they'll have a look to see if they can get David Raya in from Brentford, because he is certainly the man that they wanted last summer, but as Mikel said there, they ran out of time. They were unable to do what they really wanted to do. Brentford played very, very hard ball, and they were unable to do what they wanted to, and that's left them in a bit of a sticky situation as the season has progressed in terms of their goalkeeping situation. So that's about it from today's press conference. Quite a bit covered there, I thought, by Mikel. Nothing groundbreaking, but I thought lots of interesting little snippets. Certainly some positive signs with the injuries. And a little bit of transfer stuff covered as well. Thank you for watching, everyone. Like I said, Thursday night we are back in action in the Premier League. I'll try and do a couple of videos between now and then, looking at that game against Crystal Palace, looking at the latest team news, if we get any updates on Gabriel Martinelli, that sort of thing, and looking ahead to who might well be in the starting lineup to face Crystal Palace on Thursday. Until then, everyone, have a very, very good day. Enjoy the start of your week as best as you can in these mad lockdown times, and I will be back to speak to you as soon as possible. Thanks, everyone. I'll speak